All right, everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you so much for attending tonight's 2024 Provincial Election Leadership Dialogue in preparation for the election and vote on October 19th. My name is Jazrup Gosal. I'm the interim spokesperson and policy and research manager at the Surrey Board of Trade and your moderator for tonight. I would like to begin by acknowledging that we are on the traditional and unceded territory of the Coast Salish people, specifically the Kwantlen, the Katzie, the Kaikut, the Semiahmoo, and Tsawwassen First Nations. As well, I would like to acknowledge the Métis and Inuit Nations people who live and work on these territories as well. They all have a profound connection to the land and waters that surround the city of Surrey. And as you can tell, Sonia Firstno is attending virtually as she is unwell, but she was keen to speak with and speak to the business community. So we worked with her to ensure that she could still participate in this important forum. And we also did send out an invite to the three major party leaders. However, we have David Eby here in person with us today. Thank you very much for attending. And everyone, I would really like to thank our sponsors for this evening. Our presenting sponsor is the Fraser Valley Real Estate Board. So round of applause. Thank you very much. And we really couldn't do these events without sponsorship. So really would like to send a big round of applause to our progress partners, the Chamber of Commerce Group Insurance Plan by S&F Group Benefits, the law firm of Faskin, Focus College, Lighthouse Labs, and Western Community College. Round of applause for them too. Thank you. Now, the Surrey Board of Trade, we are a nonpartisan business organization, and our role is to instigate change at the different levels of government with any political public servant in office. The Surrey Board of Trade hosts these dialogues with our political candidates and our businesses at every election to ensure that our businesses, our residents, understand the vision of our political leaders, and to ensure that the political leaders themselves also understand the needs and the desires of the business community. Now, I would like to also say that we are a global industry. We are a 500-year-old industry, and the Surrey Board of Trade has been in operation for more than 100 years. And the Surrey Board of Trade is in the process of merging with the South Surrey and White Rock Chamber of Commerce to form the new Surrey and White Rock Board of Trade. And I encourage you to check out our website, businessinsurrey.com, to find out more. Now, the Surrey Board of Trade does believe that voting is a privilege and it connects citizens with the political process. And the simple act of marking a ballot tells our leaders what we think about decisions that affect our lives. By respectfully agreeing or disagreeing with our leaders, we show that the political system can accept different points of view and can resolve them. I encourage you all to vote on October 19th with advanced voting already taking place. Those that are seeking office need to be also aware of their role as future public servants, accountable to you as residents and taxpayers, and listen even when they may not agree with your perspective. And we are, of course, committed to increasing the number of voters in this region because Surrey does matter. You're all here because you want to be more informed and learn about these candidates and how they can affect your business and your life and work for you. The information you gain tonight will hopefully help you in your decision making. And now I would like to invite Gurdeep Sahota from the Fraser Valley Real Estate Board to the stage to give a few words of remarks. Thank you, Gurdeep.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's Leaders Debate. My name is Gurdeep Sahota, no relation to Mo. I got pulled over once by a VPD officer in Vancouver, and he asked for my driver's license, and he looked at my name and said, "Are you related to Mo?" I said, "No, sir, absolutely not." He said, "Okay, you can go." I'm the chair of the Stakeholders and Government Relations Committee of the Fraser Valley Real Estate Board and also an elected director at the board. On behalf of the Fraser Valley Real Estate Board, I want to say we are very pleased to sponsor tonight's Leaders Debate along with our partners at the Surrey Board of Trade. A bit about us. The Fraser Valley Real Estate Board represents 5,200 realtors and counting working in the municipalities of Surrey, White Rock, North Delta, the city and township of Langley, Abbotsford, and the city of Mission. Realtors guide, advise, and protect home buyers and sellers, and the board helps us ensure that we can help and support our clients through what can be one of the most significant transactions of their lives. The board also ensures that we are upholding the standards of the profession. They provide us with ongoing training, professional development, and they also provide us with the latest data and analytics for the areas that we work in. We are also very active in the communities in the Fraser Valley. I want to briefly highlight the work of the Fraser Valley Realtors Charitable Foundation. Over half a century ago, 5 members of the Fraser Valley Real Estate Board bought 3.5 acres of land in Surrey, knowing that they wanted it to be used to benefit the community. They just didn't know exactly how at that time. Years later, the right time had come to make that vision a reality. Those members sold the land to the Fraser Valley Real Estate Board with clear instructions that it be used to benefit the community. The proceeds from that sale were used to set up our charitable foundation. The Fraser Valley Realtors Charitable Foundation was established thanks to the generosity and foresight of those realtors and the Fraser Valley Real Estate Board, and now it is one of the largest foundations of its kind in Canada. Our goal is to create a Fraser Valley where vulnerable youth are protected and have healthy, stable environments to live, learn, and play. Supporting at-risk youth not only changes their lives, but strengthens the fabric of our society. When young people are set on a safe and stable path, the entire community benefits, from stronger families to long-term economic growth and sustainable development. Through lots of hard work, we have donated more than $500,000 to date and are on track to donate close to $1 million per year, focusing on helping the kids in our communities who need it most, ensuring that no child is left behind. Now, here is the latest data for the Fraser Valley in Central Surrey. Here in the Fraser Valley, the number of sales has been dropping since May 2024. While sales have been decreasing, the number of new listings has increased 21% from August, with townhomes up 25% from last year and apartments up 26%. This is great news for those looking for homes in the so-called missing middle, those coveted attached homes that give families more affordable options. What does this mean? Active listings have hit a level not seen in 10 years due to low sales and an increased number of new listings being added to the inventory. With an increasing number of homes on the market, some are describing it as an ideal market for home buyers with abundant opportunities. Here in Central Surrey, the number of detached home active listings have increased 21% from last year, while the number of apartments on the market have increased 78% from last year. As mentioned, while the number of actives has increased, the number of sales is 22 to 39% down from the last year across all categories. Benchmark prices in Central Surrey have dropped 1.5 to 0.2% across all categories, with apartments down 0.2 from last month. But over the last 5 years, prices have increased 49 to 57% in the last 5 years. This is great news for those looking to sell. Interesting times indeed. Turning back to tonight's event, elections are an important time when we as citizens get to cast our vote to elect officials who can be our voice for creating healthy and vibrant communities where we can all live, work, earn, and play. In the lead up to the provincial election on October 19th, the Fraser Valley Real Estate Board commissioned a voter intention survey with the Mustel Group. And when residents in Surrey were asked what they think are the most important provincial issues, they responded by selecting these 3 topics. At number 1, cost of living, inflation was number 1 at 65%. Housing affordability was next at 62%. Healthcare came in third at 41%. So on that note, let's see what our leadership candidates here today have to say on these critical issues affecting our communities. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Gurdeep. Thank you very much for that and your support. Overview of the format. The two leaders joining us here this evening will be responding to questions that we have gathered from our business members at the Surrey Board of Trade through our government and advocacy teams and our presenting sponsors so that we can understand the party's respective plans and policy changes it wishes to enact should they be given an opportunity to form government. Now, audience behavior. This is very important. Audience members, please do not call out during the discussion. We want to hear from the leaders. We want to hear their perspective and answers to the question. So we won't be tolerating any hooping, hollering, or any remarks from the audience. Now, the instructions for the leaders. The first time you are asked to speak, you will be able to provide 3 minutes of introductory remarks. Each candidate will introduce themselves, their vision, and key priorities. Then I will ask a question and both candidates will be able to respond to that question for 2 minutes. Your response should address the question and avoid personal attacks of any other candidate. After the question is answered by both candidates, each candidate will have the opportunity to respond to the other candidate's statement for an additional 60 seconds if they would so choose. And so this process will be repeated until the end of the questions. And because of the delayed start, we will then go into concluding remarks. Candidates will have about a minute for concluding remarks. When we had initially scheduled some back and forth between the candidates, but we want to be respectful of everyone's time here, especially of the leaders here with us today, and ensure that they are able to successfully complete the questions as well as ensure that they are there to be part of the community as well. Now, the timekeeper will hold up a yellow folder indicating 15 seconds are remaining, but you'll also be able to see, and Sonia, unfortunately, you won't be able to see the time clock, but there is a time clock there for you, David. When the time is up, our timekeeper will hold up a red folder and you will have your microphone muted. And again, attendees, please don't disturb the timekeeper at any time during the program. And there will be no audience participation and only the candidates and the moderator will be able to speak. So it is not an easy job to run for and be a leader of a political party and run for a political office and to serve our province. It takes great courage. And we did, as I mentioned, invite all of the leaders of the top 3 parties to attend. So thank you both so much for attending and your courage to stand forward. So round of applause for that, please. Now we will move into the introductions. So we will begin with you, David, to provide your opening remarks for 3 minutes. Over to you.
Great. Thanks very much. Thanks for coming tonight. It's great to see everybody here. I was really glad to be invited by Surrey Board of Trade to speak to you this evening. Surrey, south of Fraser, it's the future of the province, and we know that. We can see the population growth, where the growth is happening. This is where it's happening. And we know at the same time, people in the province, and Surrey, south of Fraser is no exception, they're struggling right now, feeling a lot of pressures. Central bank interest rates have gone up the fastest in a generation. You can hear it in the real estate stats from the Fraser Valley Real Estate Board, what's happening right now. It's affecting business. Businesses are seeing the inputs. If you run a restaurant, the cost of food, prices are going up. Global inflation is having an impact right here at home in British Columbia. Who would have thought that in the US presidential debate, the cost of food would be a key topic of conversation? So it's vital right now that people and businesses have a government that's focused on what their priorities are. And you heard what the priorities are from the Mustel Group. Fraser Valley Real Estate Board laid them out. The cost of living, number 1. And the cost of housing, number 2. These two very closely related for so many people. You know, when you think about what makes a strong community, it's a decent place to live. It's high quality services like schools and hospitals and transit. It's places to have a good time, to recreate, to play sports, those kinds of things. It's a safe community and it's high quality healthcare. That's all that British Columbians want, and they need a government on their side to deliver those things. The challenges that are in Surrey are amplified versions of the challenges that people are facing across the province. That's why I am focused on ensuring that we are addressing these key issues. On the cost of living, tax cut for British Columbians available immediately, average of $1,000 a household, but also recognizing some of the unique characteristics of many households in Surrey. Multi-generational households where multiple taxpayers are living together, all of those taxpayers see the benefit. And right away, John Rustad's plan, if he were here, maybe he would try to explain why he's making people wait 5 years for the full benefit of his program. And then you only get to benefit if you have high housing expenses, $3,000 a month to benefit from the full program 5 years from now. I think people can't afford to wait for that. They need support right away. Hiring more doctors and nurses, building the second hospital in Surrey as well as the Surrey Memorial Tower. Surrey has been neglected on critical infrastructure for too long. We've got to make sure we're continuing to deliver for the people of Surrey because they deserve the best.
Thank you very much, David. Sonia, over to you.
Thank you so much. And I so appreciate being invited by the Surrey Board of Trade and also accommodating the ability for me to be here. I assure you that my voice sounds much worse than I feel, but it's one of those circumstances at the end of a campaign where after so much talking, even a slight tickle in the throat can really take out a person's voice. So I really appreciate the chance to join you virtually. We're asked to introduce ourselves, our vision, and our priorities. And I'll just quickly tell you a little bit about myself. I never expected to be in politics. I'm a teacher. I'm a mom. I'm a historian. And the reason I'm in politics is because in 2013, the former provincial government issued a permit for a contaminated landfill uphill from my community's drinking water at the time. And I was so shocked that a government would even consider putting contaminated soil uphill from the drinking water for 12,000 people. Because I'd always experienced and believed that government was there to help and protect me, to be on my side, and to protect people and the environment. And for 4 years, I led the effort in our community to get that permit revoked, and we were finally successful in 2017. And by then, I decided that I wanted to be elected as an MLA because I wanted to make a difference in how government makes decisions. I wanted to restore that trust that I lost in government and also make government more trustworthy for everybody. So I was elected in 2017 in Cowichan Valley and was part of the minority government, the minority arrangement between the NDP and the BC Greens for 3 years. And I'm really proud of what we did because we put our agreement out to the public and we said what we were going to do and we put a timeline on it so the public could hold government accountable. The public could know that we were actually living up to what the agreement was between us and the NDP. And now I look at the last 4 years and I see a lot less transparency. I see a lot less accountability. I see a lot more top down from the government. And my vision is really about a government that works with communities, that works with local governments, that recognizes, as David Eby said, that regions have been underserved, and that includes Surrey, and that recognizes that the best governance is one that really builds trust and confidence in the system. When people don't have to think about government because those healthcare systems are there to serve them, because their schools are high functioning and their kids aren't spending their days in portables, because the infrastructure is there.
Thank you very much, Sonia.
Thank you.
Now we will go into the first question. So this we'll start with Sonia first. So the question is, what is your party's comprehensive economic plan to ensure sustainable growth in British Columbia, and how will it address rising inflation, job creation, and income inequality in the province? Sonia.
2 minutes. Okay. Well, the foundation of our economic plan is really based on the understanding that a healthy economy is really rooted in healthy and thriving people, that we can't have a strong economy if people don't know how they're going to pay their bills, if people can't take risks, if people can't seek higher education, with young people don't have the access to post-secondary into training. So really having a government that focuses on creating the conditions for people to be thriving, ensuring that the government services are reliable, the government sort of holding up its end of the deal, and then recognizing the importance of the right kinds of investments that government needs to make to create these conditions. We do have a growing inequality problem in Canada and in BC. I was just reading this morning about how the inequality gap has actually grown to one of its highest rates in over 3 decades. And that the people at the bottom, the 40% at the bottom, really can't participate fully in the economy. And so when we're leaving too many people out of the economy, that actually doesn't help make a strong and thriving economy. So really ensuring that that gap closes, that we are addressing that huge inequality that's growing. And when it comes to inflation, I look at the example of Bill 44, which upzoned the whole province and actually contributed to some land inflation at the time. And it's an example where the goals are laudable. We want affordable housing. We want housing for everybody. But sometimes the approach doesn't work. And I think that what we need more from the provincial government is government that will work with communities, understanding that not all communities are the same, that one size fits all doesn't work, and that we achieve the best outcomes when we work together.
Thank you very much, Sonia. And David, over to you.
Thanks, Sonia. There's lots that I agree with Sonia about. There's some things that I don't agree with her about. I agree with her that investing in people, supporting people is the best way to grow our economy, making sure people have access to training, to apprenticeships, and that we are investing in the infrastructure that helps fast-growing regions succeed. Surrey-Langley SkyTrain will result in massive new investment in Surrey. The transit-oriented development areas around each of those stops are going to mean literally thousands of jobs and massive economic growth and growth in the tax base for the city of Surrey to be able to serve citizens going forward. But with that growth, you need services like schools, which is why we're building 10,000 units of 10,000 spaces for students in schools in Surrey. After the last 4 years of the previous government, not a single new school was built in Surrey. But I really disagree with Sonia about housing. You know, we need to let builders build so that people can find the homes that they need for them and for their families.
Thank you very much. Now, David, you do have an opportunity to respond to Sonia's statements, as well as highlight some of your plans, your economic plans, which you already did. So if you would like, you have 1 minute for that.
Yeah, I'll take that minute because this is an important issue and this is a big departure, not just with Sonia, but also with the BC Conservative Party and John Rustad. I wish he were here to explain to you why, if you own property, you wouldn't be allowed to build a duplex just as easily as you could build a single family home. You could build a townhome just as easily as you could build a single family home. Because I know that the first home that people buy is not going to be a single detached house. It's either going to be a condo or it's going to be a unit in a house that's broken up into multiple units. And I know that there are builders in Surrey, in British Columbia, that can take on a project on a single lot and build those townhomes and build that triplex or build that fourplex, build those housing units that people need quickly and affordably. And instead of being able to do that, those drywallers, those framers, those painters, they're lined up at City Hall. And it's not just in Surrey, it's across the province to get rezoning applications with consultants to build the housing that we need. We need people to be able to
Thank
build.
you very much,
We want to
David.
get the red tape out of the way.
Sonia, your response to
Yeah.
David's statements.
I think it's really important to look at the data and the evidence. And in Surrey, in the last 20 years, 59% of rental units have been purchased by investment companies, by real estate investment trusts. And so it's not just a matter of letting builders build. Yes, we absolutely do want to let builders build, but it's a matter of who can buy. And when people are up against a real estate investment trust with an enormous amount of capital at their disposal, it's very hard for individuals to compete with that. There's estimates now that up to 50% of new condos that are being built in BC are being purchased by these investment companies. And until we address that problem, until we really focus on making sure housing is for people, we're going to continue to have the kind of unaffordability that we've had in BC for too long now.
Thank you very much. Now, the next question is on population growth as well as transportation. So BC's population is continuing to grow. Surrey's population growing at about 1,200 per month and being poised to be the largest city in BC by 2039, 2042. And as that growth occurs, so does the demand for infrastructure and public services as well. With regards to the Surrey Langley SkyTrain that you touched on, David, the federal government, as we have seen, has not confirmed or budgeted their funding promise after the announcement in July of 2021. And we have seen a lot more progress for the Broadway SkyTrain line than we have for the Surrey Langley SkyTrain line. Now, what is your plan to ensure funding is available for infrastructure projects in general as well, and that these projects are delivered on time or expedited in certain cases? David, for you, your answer for 2 minutes.
Yeah, I understand the skepticism of the people of Surrey about rapid transit. You know, it was in 2010, John Rustad was in government, the promise came down. Don't worry, guys, we're gonna build the Surrey Langley SkyTrain. Well, it never happened. The money was never set aside, the work was never done, and the SkyTrain was never built. It was just like other promises that John Rustad made. We're going to cut the small business tax, 2008. Of course, that never happened either. But when we make a commitment to the community, we mean it. We're delivering the Surrey Langley SkyTrain. The federal government funding is locked in and committed by contract. They have to deliver the money. The pre-works are already underway. The contracts have been awarded to the contractors who are building the guideways and the stations and the mechanics for the SkyTrain. Construction is going to begin on those components this year. And in addition to the SkyTrain, it's more than that. It's about the land around the stations, which the provincial government has purchased, so that we can ensure development around the stations that is consistent with a whole community approach, that people can actually afford to live near the SkyTrain station that they use to get to work. Because often when we build the SkyTrain station, private interests buy up the land around the station, they bid the price up, and the final owners of the place, as Sonia said, can end up to be people who just don't even need to use transit, because people who actually use transit can't afford to live there. We need to support building out the infrastructure, ensuring the affordable housing near transit, and all of the opportunities that come with that to do things like parks, recreational areas, recreational centers that make life complete and interesting and good for families. And that's the work that we're doing in Surrey. I'm really proud about the transportation work. I'd love to talk about Highway 1, ran out of time, but hopefully I'll get to raise that too.
Thank you very much, David. Sonia, your response for 2 minutes to the question.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I think one of the challenges we have with our political system is it doesn't encourage long-term thinking. We see promises get made at election time, as David pointed out, and then those promises are not always fulfilled. And we've seen those kinds of promises from both the BC Liberals and the BC NDP over the decades. Surrey's rapid growth wasn't a surprise in any way. It was very clear that Surrey was going to be the fastest growing city and is likely to be the largest city in BC soon. But not planning ahead means that governments are always playing catch up. And so, yes, absolutely, we need the rapid transit, but we also need ongoing long-term investments in operation for transit. We've been calling for the last couple of years as the BC Greens for historic investments in transit, because it's not just Surrey that's underserved, it's most of BC. Getting from anywhere within BC, if you're not in a large city, is next to impossible with transit. So we need a whole of province look at transit and a whole of community look at how we are building in the infrastructure. We also know that there's an infrastructure deficit already. And as communities continue to grow, as we continue to add more and more housing, there's a real requirement for governments to get ahead of that infrastructure deficit. We've promised $650 million a year to communities to start playing catch up on that deficit. But also, really importantly, working with local communities and really recognizing that it's the people on the ground that have the best understanding of what the needs are. And when I hear David talk about expanding Highway 1, all the evidence shows you cannot build your way out of traffic congestion. It's like adding another hole in your belt if you want to lose weight. What we need is really good public transit.
Thank you, Sonia. Now, Sonia, you have an opportunity to respond to David's statements if you would like. And then David, you have an opportunity as well for 1 minute.
Yeah, just to pick up on the piece around the housing around transit, the Bill 47, the transit-oriented housing, as well as Bill 44. One of the things in the legislature was some long back and forth between Adam Olson, the MLA for Saanich, and Ravi Kahlon, the Minister for Housing. And eventually the minister agreed with Adam that these were not bills that were going to create more affordable housing. They're going to create more housing, but they don't really tackle affordability. And when we talk about affordability, I think we have to recognize the role that non-market housing plays, but also that vacancy control plays, protecting affordable housing that we have. We're in an emergency in that so much affordable housing is being lost right now that we need governments that are going to respond appropriately to that. Not only put the brakes on the purchasing of that housing by investment companies, but also protect the affordable housing that we have right now around transit, but in communities generally.
Thank you very much, Sonia. David.
Thanks. I mean, it sounds very strange to people in Surrey, I'm sure. You've seen such huge population growth. You know how desperate the need is for housing. To hear Sonia say that she opposes the ability of someone who owns a property to build a duplex with the same process as a single family house or a townhouse. How are we going to solve the housing crisis if we don't build more housing for people? And that is the exact same position. It sounds like maybe that's just the Green Party's position, but that is the exact same position that John Rustad has, to send you into a lineup at City Hall when we need to build housing. And we have to expand Highway 1. You know, not everyone has access to transit. That highway should have been expanded a generation ago. It would have been way cheaper to do it. We're doing it now, funded all the way out to Abbotsford, and we're gonna go all the way out to Chilliwack. But we're also making sure that there's a dedicated transit lane, a bus on shoulder lane, so people right up the valley have access to high-speed transit. Not everyone is able to access transit. So if you have to drive, we're making sure that you're being supported as well.
Thank you very much, David. So this question comes from our sponsor, Fraser Valley Real Estate Board. The city of Surrey is pursuing a city charter. This will have implications for provincial legislation such as housing targets and density. It will also give local officials authority to enact an empty homes tax. What are your thoughts on the city pursuing this charter? And we'll begin now with Sonia for your answer for 2 minutes.
Yeah, I support Surrey in pursuing this. And I think that we have to recognize that part of it is a response to provincial governments failing to work collaboratively with local governments. I also support more housing being built in every way, but have to look at the realities. The Lower Mainland has built more housing in the last 20 years than any other region in North America, but it hasn't solved affordability. And so I think we have to look at affordability as well. I believe in upzoning, believe in density. I think these are really important parts of how we're going to build better and more sustainable communities. But I also really believe that local communities should have a say and should be participating in the shaping of their communities. And that it's always a challenge when one level of government is indicating that they know better than local communities. And we've seen that play out with the Surrey policing problem and a provincial government that wasn't working collaboratively. And I really think it's important to have that partnership and that collaboration to work with local governments. And so pursuing the Surrey Charter and the empty home tax in Surrey is a way for the local government to actually address the needs that they feel for their communities and to be able to have some agency around decisions that are being made that affect Surrey. I'm quite concerned about how many empty homes and empty condos we have in BC, and quite concerned about how many of them are really just being used as investment tools for these large companies, for people all around the world that are shareholders in what should be housing for people in BC. And as we have a growing affordability crisis and a growing homelessness crisis, I think we need a provincial government that
Thank you very much, Sonia. David,
Close.
your response to the question for 2 minutes.
Yeah, I'm very supportive of the municipal government in Surrey having the tools that they need to address the unique challenges that Surrey presents. We have to do it in a way, though, in a partnership that ensures that there's consistency between Surrey standards for building and other cities, so that if you're a builder, you don't have to worry about, this is some of the challenge we've run into Vancouver, where Vancouver has very specific standards. As a builder, you don't know what the requirements are in each of the cities. We need people who are building to be able to build anywhere and understand what the rules are very intuitively, to have a standard permitting process that makes it as easy as possible and understandable as possible, with a minimum number of things you need to know about each local community. That's how you bring down the cost of housing, when you standardize things, when you're able to do things in a large number while trying to recognize as much as possible the needs of each community. So I just want to put that caveat in there because it's really important. It's a big part of the cost of housing and the challenge of the length of time to get housing built, which adds to the cost. I think it's important, though, because Surrey has unique challenges. The way it's developed, how quickly it's grown, the city does need special tools to be able to respond to the challenges. And I'm fully supportive of having that conversation with the city to develop that charter to address and give the city the tools so that that growth can be managed and they can ensure that livability that we all want for Surrey, such a fast growing community.
Thank you very much. And so you do have an opportunity to respond to Sonia's statement as well, if you'd like, for 1 minute.
Sure. I mean, I don't know if we're going to get too far on the question of allowing people just to build the housing that they need, but the challenge that we have and the challenge of the cost of housing is driven by a huge number of factors. And Sonia's certainly right. I mean, people have been using housing as an investment, a place to put money rather than as a place to live. We've had to address those kinds of issues, but we also have had massive population growth. And one of the reasons why we've had to build so much housing in British Columbia, particularly in the Lower Mainland and the Fraser Valley, is because so many people have moved here. And the problem is that we haven't been able to build to meet that demand. Even projects that shouldn't have been an issue at all. You know, I worked with a local nonprofit here who was trying to build an apartment building for adults living with disabilities. And they were tied up for years trying to build an apartment building that should have been a non-controversial, non-market housing project. It should have just been built. And it wasn't built. And as a result, the cost went through the roof for the developer and the rents weren't as affordable. These are the kinds of issues we need to address.
Sonia, your response to David's statements, 1 minute.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really interesting to contemplate what dialogue and discourse like this can do. And this is definitely more dialogue and discourse than people are probably used to hearing between political leaders. I think we have the same goals in mind, but we see things a little bit differently. Since 2016, BC has lost 100,000 units of affordable housing. That means that there's a massive loss of the kind of housing that young people need, that students need, that people on disability need, that people starting out their careers need. And the challenge I have is that the NDP in the last 7 years hasn't responded to that growing crisis of the loss of affordable housing with tools that they had available to them, like vacancy control, that would really put a stop to the kind of investors.
Thank you very much, Sonia. The next question is also from the Fraser Valley Real Estate Board. What specific policies will you implement to increase the supply of affordable housing? And how will you work with all levels of government to ensure there are minimal delays and obtain buy-in for your policies? So David, your response first for 2 minutes.
Yeah, I think it's important to talk about a kind of housing that doesn't get talked about often enough. It's where someone's got a basement suite, secondary suite, laneway house that they could rent out. And I've heard a lot of landlords or potential landlords say to me, say to other people, you know, I would rent it out, but I'm really worried. You know, what if the tenant engaged a bunch of property destruction? What if the tenant doesn't pay the rent? Going to really put me, you know, I could renovate and create a unit, but would I be able to service the line of credit if someone stopped paying rent? Could I evict the person or not? And that answering those questions for people who are making those decisions makes the difference between them being able to rent out the place and provide a unit of housing that's more affordable for people or not. That's why we've committed to ensure that there's a fund available to support small scale landlords, mom and pop landlords, want to rent out a unit. If the tenant doesn't pay the rent, that's like an insurance policy for you to cover that cost. If someone causes property destruction, that helps cover the cost of rebuilding. And it makes sure it's not just about money, it's also about legal advice and support through the tribunal process. So if you're faced with that situation, you have the support that you need. And trying to come up with tools like that to support people to be able to bring on housing. Government doesn't have all the answers. Sonia is a big fan of nonprofit housing, non-market housing, and so am I. But it's not the whole answer. Government can't do it all. We also need people to rent out their suites. We need home builders to be able to build more than one unit on a single family lot to make it more affordable for people. And so bringing those tools on can improve affordability because people can bring on a lot more housing a lot faster, and we know we need it, and that's going to help bring rents down. We're finally turning the corner. BC is the only province in Canada where rents are actually going down right now instead of up because we're building more rental housing than Ontario. But we've got to keep going to make life more affordable for British Columbians.
Thank you very much, David. Sonia, over to you for your response to the question.
Yeah, thanks so much. I mean, we're turning the corner at a point when rents have essentially doubled. In Victoria, rents have gone from under 1,000 for a one bedroom in 2017 to over 2,000 now. And for a lot of people, that has just priced them out of housing. So the housing crisis it needs more than one solution. We need a lot of solutions. We agree on that. The first thing is to protect the affordable housing that we have. And yes, build non-market housing. We used to build a lot more non-market housing in Canada, but the federal funds dried up in the 90s. And now we have a situation where the private market has really not got any checks and balances on it. And we're seeing the kind of rent driving up that we've seen. We would also recapitalize the Rental Protection Fund with $500 million and provide $100 million to maintain existing nonprofit and co-op housing. We would build 26,000 new units of non-market housing every year, with a few thousand of those really specific for Indigenous communities. And then work in partnership with municipalities and reward the municipalities that hit their housing targets. I think having language like a naughty list from the provincial government is a very paternalistic and non-partnership way to approach a relationship with municipal governments and local governments. And so recognizing that we need housing for families, for seniors, for essential workers, that we need housing for people with disabilities, that we need to make our communities livable for everybody that lives there. And there's a lot that needs to be done. It's not a one size fits all, but it's too simple to say that we're going to just build our way out of this with the private sector alone, because we actually got here over the last 30 years with the private sector alone and not the non-market housing
Thank
that
you
we
very
need.
much, Sonia. And now, David, over to you for your response to Sonia's statements.
Sure, thanks. I mean, it's hard to do this, right? I mean, John Rustad is running a full slate of candidates here in Surrey. He's not here to debate the fact that he believes, and he said, that it's not the Premier's role to ensure affordable housing. That's not the Premier's job. And so I'm responding to Sonia. I actually have a lot more in common with Sonia than with John Rustad, but here we are having this debate about the differences between us. Sonia's running 5 candidates in the 10 Surrey ridings. And you need to hear from John Rustad about why he opposes building the housing that we need. You need to hear from him about why he feels that it's not government's role to address speculation that we've seen in the market, people buying up homes, leaving them vacant while people are desperate for a place to rent. Why he is in favor of people buying up whole homes and condos to turn into hotel rooms, Airbnb, while people can't find a place to rent. He needs to explain those things. He's not here to do it. And that is a disrespect to the people here, the people of Surrey.
Thank you very much, David.
Discussion.
Sonia.
Yeah, thanks. And yeah, I think elections and election campaigns should really be about holding up a vision for the future, holding up ideas and plans for solving problems, and really addressing what we see as government's role in creating a healthy, flourishing, thriving society. And we are facing a lot of overlapping crises. And I do agree with David that it's disappointing that there's only two of us here, one of us doing our best to keep our voice over the course of the evening. I think it also speaks to the real importance of standing behind your policies, your ideas, of having a truly costed platform. We've done that. We've demonstrated how we will pay for what we're proposing. And
Thank
that's
you, Sonia. Now, this next question is about Surrey's post-secondary spaces. So they have not significantly grown in the past 20, 25 years, while our population continues to grow significantly. With increasing demand for post-secondary education, how will your government ensure that enough seats are available for universities in Surrey, such as KPU, SFU, and soon UBC? So we'll go with Sonia, your response to the question first.
Yeah, education is key to us being the province that we have the potential to be. We should be striving to be a knowledge-based economy. And for us to be a knowledge-based economy, we have to invest in high quality post-secondary education, but we also have to invest in early childhood education, in a thriving public education system where kids are getting all their needs met. They have school counselors and psychologists and EAs and enough teachers and resources to really do well. When it comes to post-secondary, we absolutely need to raise the operating grants for post-secondary institutions like SFU, KPU, and soon UBC. And we also need a level of transparency for how universities are spending their money, how post-secondary institutions are. And I have some real concerns about the corporatization of a lot of public institutions and bodies. And when we see salaries at the executive level get to the $400,000, $500,000, $600,000, $700,000 range, and we see courses being cut and not enough professors and not enough spaces for students, I think government has a real role to play to ensure that our public post-secondary institutions are really living up to what we expect of them, which is to deliver as much high quality and affordable post-secondary education as we possibly can to everybody in the province who wants to have that opportunity. We know that post-secondary is a means to a better life, to a higher overall salary in life, and it's a means for people to be able to contribute the most they can. I mean, both David and I have several degrees from universities. He has a law degree, I have a master's degree, teaching degree. This has helped me reach my full potential, and I think we should be striving for that for everybody in all of our communities, and we need a provincial government that's
Thank
committed.
you very much, Sonia. David, your response.
Yeah, thanks. I'm really excited about what's happening in Surrey in the post-secondary sector. We've added more than 300 spaces at KPU. When we were looking for a location for the first new medical school in Western Canada in a generation, we chose Surrey and SFU. And it's a key part of the mayor's plan for Surrey downtown to build around it, because those anchors, like a new medical school, with the research that brings, with the associated jobs that brings, it brings a huge amount of activity. We're going to continue to support Surrey in the post-secondary sector, but not just in post-secondary, in K to 12. You know, when kids are in school, making sure that they're in a school that's a high quality school, that they have the teachers, the supports that they need to be successful is absolutely vital. And I've heard John Rustad say it, his plan, and he said it again just this week. His plan for crowded schools in Surrey is to increase class sizes by 20% at least. That means 20% less attention for the kids that are in Surrey schools. And by the way, just Surrey schools, because this is the area where the crowding is the most intense. And it's yet again an example of underinvesting in the city of Surrey, in the kids of Surrey, in a way that would be totally not tolerated anywhere else, and I won't tolerate it. We're committed to 5,000 more. We've funded 5,000 more in addition to the 10,000 student spaces we've done. They're in development right now to expand schools for a growing community, so kids can learn in K to 12, they can be successful, they can go on to that post-secondary study, which could be university, or it could be one of the doubled apprenticeship places we've put in place in the province. We've committed to in this election, so you can develop a trade and you can help build out this amazing province. That's what we're committed to, education and training, and particularly here in the community of Surrey.
Thank you very much. Now, David, your response to Sonia's statements, if you'd like to make them for 1 minute.
No, I think she had a lot of important thoughts about post-secondary education, the importance of it, and the need for efficiency in that system. I don't have a lot to add to that.
Thank you very much. Sonia, if you would like to add or respond, you have 1 minute.
Yeah, I mean, I will say that my vision for the province is really that there's equitable service and access to services for every community in BC. And it is really disheartening that Surrey has been so underserved, and that we see election after election promises being made about no more portables, and we're gonna make sure that kids have better conditions. It's really critical that political parties follow through on those promises and get that work done. And I hope to see that in the coming years, because it's really not acceptable for the inequitable services.
Thank you very much, Sonia. So this next question is about Surrey's healthcare system and specifically the hospital. There have been some criticisms that the hospital won't meet the needs of this community. And in addition to ensuring that it has adequate facilities like trauma centers, maternity wards, pediatric units, and more beds, residents and businesses are asking for greater investments in Surrey Memorial Hospital. Now, how do you respond to these asks and these requests? And we'll start first with you, David.
Sure. Well, the people of Surrey are right. You need more healthcare. You need more hospital space. We're building up the Surrey Cloverdale Hospital. It's under construction. There's hundreds of people on the site building it right now. It's unbelievable the stuff that people say on social media. I visited the site. It's under construction. It's happening. Okay. Surrey Memorial Hospital, we've committed to the funding. We're starting the business plan on a new patient care tower to make sure that Surrey gets the health care that it needs. The new Surrey Hospital in itself, biggest health investment south of the Fraser in the history of the province. Surrey Memorial Tower will be the same. In addition, at Surrey Memorial, those doctors and nurses on the front lines of a population explosion in Surrey, massive demand. They're working night and day. They're incredible heroes. We're working with them to expand services. We've added 170 plus new staff at Surrey Memorial Hospital over the last year and a half. We're opening a new cardiac catheterization lab, which is when you have a heart attack, you can get the care you need right here in Surrey. And we've got to keep going. John Rustad's plan is extremely vague about healthcare. He's released two numbers. The first one in his healthcare policy reflected a $4 billion cut to the healthcare system. The second one, when he issued a press release to try to clarify, no, he wasn't going to cut the system. The base number that he used for the budget was $3 billion less than actual healthcare spending in the province. Either he doesn't understand how the healthcare system works, or he actually does plan on cutting the healthcare system through the review that he's announced, which he hasn't given any details on. Of course, no costed platform, no plan for healthcare. People in Surrey deserve clarity about what the plans are. We provided a costed platform, a clear plan for capital investment in Surrey, a new medical school to train the professionals, recognizing the credentials of internationally trained doctors and nurses faster so they can get off the sidelines and get to work here in Surrey and right across the province. And we're not going to stop until Surrey gets the care that they deserve, as well as everybody else in the province of British Columbia.
Thank you very much. Now you have an opportunity to respond. So, to the question. Sorry.
Right. Thanks so much. Yeah, healthcare is a serious concern across the province, and especially in Surrey. When I read the letter from the Surrey Memorial Hospital doctors that came out in September, and they itemize the very serious concerns that they have about deteriorating healthcare conditions at Surrey Memorial and for the residents of Surrey. But they more worryingly itemize the fact that they'd raised these concerns with the health authority and hoped to work in partnership with the health authority to solve some of these issues, and weren't met with a willing partner. And so I think it's not just about building more infrastructure, which we absolutely have to do, but it's also about a provincial government and the health authorities working with the health professionals, working with the communities to make sure that the solutions are the ones that are going to work for the communities. We have a model for primary public healthcare to protect public healthcare at a primary level, the Dogwood model of community health centers in every community. This takes the pressure off of the acute centers and ensures that people have that longitudinal care, team-based care that is more sustainable for the doctors and the healthcare professionals. I'm really worried about the corporatization of healthcare delivery that's happened in the last 7 years with TELUS Health and other private healthcare agency nurses being paid more than public nurses. And I think we really have to take really strong steps to roll back the corporatization and the private delivery of healthcare. And I haven't seen a really strong response from the NDP. The BC Conservatives indicate that they want more privatization. I think that's a very bad path. We see that we get worse outcomes and more expensive healthcare. But we've also seen corporatization happen under the NDP, and we have to roll that back.
Thank you very much. So you have an opportunity to respond to these statements. We'll begin with you, David, and then go to Sonia.
Sure. The problem we face in the healthcare system is a shortage of healthcare professionals. And I've heard the suggestion of John Rustad that privatization is going to be part of the answer here. If you've got a fixed number of doctors and nurses, they're like a scarce resource, and we're battling across Canada for these healthcare professionals. We're recruiting from England. We got shortages there. If you've got a scarce resource, you take some of those doctors and nurses out, you put them into the private sector. How does that improve healthcare? All of a sudden now you're paying those same doctors and nurses, but now they work for private companies that also have to charge a profit margin on top of it. So it costs more for taxpayers to access the same number of doctors and nurses. That doesn't make any sense. You know, if I thought that that was an avenue that would improve care, absolutely we would look at it. When we weren't hitting cancer timelines for people, we went to Bellingham and we found a private clinic there that would provide care for British Columbians immediately so they get the care they needed. Not taking anything away from anyone in British Columbia accessing care outside the province. We'll take those steps if it's necessary.
Thank you very much. Sonia.
Yeah, thanks. We've seen a pretty significant increase in healthcare spending under the NDP, 72% increase. And yet we haven't seen the kind of results that we would want to expect from that kind of additional funding going into healthcare. And when we hear about shortage of healthcare professionals, we actually have per capita more family doctors in BC than the average across Canada. But what we don't have are family doctors that want to work in the system as it exists right now. And so creating conditions where health professionals want to work in a system where they're not burning out, where they feel supported, where they're getting the supports they need is really critical. And again, David Eby didn't respond to the concerns that I've raised around corporatization, TELUS Health, and other private entities, really making inroads into a healthcare system that has such significant gaps in it. Those gaps need to be closed efficiently and effectively, not with more bureaucracy, no more vice presidents, no more project managers.
Thank you very much, Sonia. Now, the next question is about Surrey School District, and you both touched on education for K-12 students in some of your remarks, but I wanted to really highlight the fact that the Surrey School District has indicated that it needs about 20 new schools, 19 additions, and 21 site acquisitions, not accounting for the new growth in 2024 and 2025 school year right now. New residential development is estimated to be at 52,000 eligible residential development units in Surrey and White Rock over the next 10 years. And this new residential development will result in an estimated increase of over 9,000 school-aged children in the school district over 10 years. Now, what is your government's strategy on investing in schools for K-12 students over this next 10-year period? And we'll begin with Sonia and then over to David.
Yeah, as I indicated earlier, investment in education is so critical, so essential. And we need governments that look at the horizon a lot more than they have in the past. We knew the demographic trends, we knew the population growth would be coming, and we haven't had governments that get out in front of that. And part of that is our election cycle and the way that our electoral system works is it rewards short-term thinking at elections, lots of promises, lots of tax cuts. but it doesn't reward long-term thinking, because often governments don't want to start projects that other governments might get credit for if they're finished when it's under another government. So we really have to insist on political parties demonstrating that they're willing to do long-term thinking, long-term investments, to plan according to what the demographics are showing us, what the needs of communities are showing us, what's being brought forward by local governments and local communities. And in the case of Surrey, I mean, it's a large deficit of infrastructure to catch up on. And we need governments that will pay attention to that and get that work done.
Thank you, Sonia. David?
Thanks. I have to start on the doctor's question because I can't leave that hanging. You know, we actually, I've never heard it said as a bad thing that we have more family doctors per capita than other provinces. I just want you to know how challenging it is in other provinces in Canada. We added more than 800 new family doctors to British Columbia since we signed a new deal with the doctors of BC. That meant that 250,000 people in our province in the last year got a family doctor who didn't have a family doctor before. Our projections are 160,000 more will be connected to a family doctor in the next 6 months. The pace is actually accelerating. For the first time in 20 years, fewer people are looking for a family doctor this year than were last year, the first time in 20 years. And if you register on the Health Connect registry, you'll be able to connect with a family doctor. We project every British Columbian will have a family doctor by the end of 2025 based on our graduation rate and the rate we're recruiting doctors from other jurisdictions. So we are making progress on these hard issues, but I know if you don't have a family doctor right now, it's an emergency for you and your family, and it's not soon enough. But I don't want to leave the impression that we're not making progress or we can't solve these issues, because we absolutely can. And we can solve this challenge in our healthcare system. Yeah, I've discussed the school challenge many times. Who would have imagined that 10,000 new student spaces in Surrey wouldn't be enough to address portables? And now a commitment and dedicated funding for 15,000 spaces. We're using modular expansions at schools. These are prefabricated expansions so we can expand schools even faster. We have to do more. We'll have to continue to work with the school board to deliver those spaces for students that they need in Surrey. And Sonia's absolutely right about catch-up. This is the fact that I want John Rustad to stand right here and explain to the people of Surrey why he sat around the cabinet table for 4 years and didn't build a single new school in this community.
Thank you very much, David. Now you have an opportunity to respond to Sonia's statements if you would like.
I'm good, thanks.
Thank you. Sonia, your opportunity.
Just one small thing, which I think is really essential for doing big projects and doing big projects efficiently and affordably, is to have pre-designed projects. So we think about schools when I was growing up, there were sort of real clear designs for elementary schools, middle schools, and high schools. And I've looked at some schools that have been built lately, both on the island and on the mainland. And all of them start from scratch. And so what I think we need from governments is to say, we're going to build high quality schools and buildings, but we don't have to start from scratch on the design every time. Let's have designs that we know are going to work, that are going to serve the students and the communities really well, and skip all of those first steps that really delay and make projects more expensive.
Thank you very much, Sonia. Now we will move into the concluding remarks from the candidates. We will provide a minute for concluding remarks, and right now we'll begin with David and then Sonia. David.
Thanks. I've enjoyed the conversation tonight. Thanks for coming. Thanks for moderating. There was a missing person in the room, and there was a lot that we have to talk about in addition to all the issues we canvassed. Today in the news, horrific statements from a BC Conservative candidate slandering the entire Muslim community of the province of British Columbia, calling Palestinian children inbred walking time bombs, and John Rustad standing beside that candidate and saying that's okay. Well, that is just the latest in a series of hateful statements towards the Punjabi community. The World Sikh Organization has called out a candidate, towards people who are gay, towards women, Indigenous people, conspiracy theories about vaccines and climate change, City like Surrey Fusion Fest is amazing. Everybody comes together, we celebrate the diversity. That is what makes Surrey amazing. That's what makes our province amazing. So the topic we didn't canvas tonight is the topic of hate and division. I'm going to stand against it every single day. And I want John Rustad here to explain why he won't.
Thank you very much, David. Sonia, please.
Yeah, thank you so much. And my apologies for my deteriorating voice. Hopefully another couple days of tea will solve this. I think that it is a question of leadership that we're looking at right now. And leadership means showing up and being accountable, being transparent, asking questions, answering questions, and standing behind and for the things that you stand for. And I think tonight is an example of two party leaders willing to do that, willing to have engaged and important discussions about things that matter to you and your community and matter to BC. I'm also incredibly dismayed by the comments made by the candidate from South Surrey. And leadership in that moment from the leader would have been to remove that candidate and to show that that was not something that he would tolerate as a leader. And so it is an important election we're in, and it's one that we have to ensure that we elect our best representatives and our best leaders.
Thank you very much, Sonia. And thank you to both leaders here today with us for presenting your ideas. Thank you. Now, it is a difficult task to run for office and especially to lead a party, so this has been fantastic dialogue. Please help me thank our sponsors for this event. Presenting sponsor, the Fraser Valley Real Estate Board. Thank you very much. And our progress partners, the Chamber of Commerce Group Insurance Plan by S&F Group Benefits, the law firm of Faskin, Focus College, Lighthouse Labs, and Western Community College. And please don't forget to vote on the 19th with advanced voting taking place today through October 13th, 15th, and 16th. And you can find more information at elections.bc.ca.